Tonight we slow down, we breathe a little deeper, and we follow the quiet rise of a man whose curiosity, gentleness, and steady decisions helped reshape the future of intelligence. This is not a story of loud ambition or dramatic turning points. It is a story of calm persistence, of soft determination, and of a mind that learned early on that the biggest changes often begin in silence. As you listen, let the noise of the day fade away, and let this journey settle into a smooth rhythm, peaceful, inspiring, and unhurried. Sam Altman's story begins not in the spotlight, not in the boardrooms or the global stages where he would eventually stand, but in the quiet corners of a Midwestern childhood. Born in St. Louis, he grew up with the steady presence of family, a supportive environment, and a sense of curiosity that stretched far beyond his age. From the moment he discovered computers as strange metal boxes full of unknown possibility, his world changed. He wasn't just interested in using them. He wanted to understand how they worked, why they worked, and what they could become. He spent hours exploring, tinkering, and learning by breaking things, fixing them, and breaking them again. But even in those early years, there was something different about the way he approached learning. He didn't rush. He didn't force things. He let understanding come naturally, the way a slow river carves its way through the earth, not by pushing harder, but by moving steadily forward. That gentle curiosity became one of the defining traits of his life. As he grew older, Sam found comfort in reflection. He wasn't drawn to noise or chaos. Instead, he preferred the kind of quiet where ideas could stretch their legs and walk around freely. He enjoyed long moments of thinking, moments where he could simply sit with a question and let it unfold. Whether it was about computers, people, or the world around him, he learned early on that the most powerful insights often come after the mind has time to breathe. This inner stillness shaped the direction of his youth. When he eventually moved to Stanford to study computer science, he didn't arrive as someone chasing glory or recognition. He arrived as someone searching for understanding, connection, and a place where his curiosity could grow without restraint. But even in a competitive environment filled with brilliant minds, Sam stayed grounded. He wasn't there to outshine anyone. He was there to explore ideas with sincerity. During his time at Stanford, Sam discovered something important about himself. He wasn't just fascinated by technology, he was fascinated by the people who used it. He cared about how tools affected their emotions, how interfaces shaped their choices, and how designs influenced their experience of the world. This sensitivity, subtle but powerful, would become one of his greatest strengths. While many focused on speed or efficiency, Sam focused on humanity, on the emotional texture behind every interaction. It was this mindset that led him to create his first company, a location-based app that helped people stay connected with friends in real time. The app was simple, almost gentle in its design, but what mattered most to Sam was what it represented, a way for technology to enhance closeness rather than diminish it. Even in his early 20s, long before he became a leader in artificial intelligence, he was already thinking deeply about how technology could support the human experience, not replace it. The years that followed were filled with lessons. Some were difficult, others uplifting, but all contributed to the shaping of a leader who understood that progress wasn't a race, it was a responsibility. As the company grew, Sam learned how to guide a team, how to remain calm under pressure, and how to navigate uncertainty with grace. When challenges arose, he didn't react impulsively. He paused, breathed, and approached each problem with clarity. His leadership came not from force, but from presence. And as the company matured, Sam discovered something even more important. He wasn't defined by what he built. He was defined by the curiosity that guided him. That realization created space in his life, space to explore new ideas, space to think about the world beyond a single product, and space to imagine a future where intelligence itself could grow in ways humanity had never seen before. When he eventually stepped back from the startup world, it wasn't a moment of loss or uncertainty. It was a moment of expansion, a moment where he allowed his mind to wander into bigger, deeper questions about how people think, how intelligence works, how society evolves through discovery, and most importantly, how empathy must guide innovation if that innovation is to serve the world softly and responsibly. This was the beginning of the next chapter of his story, the chapter where artificial intelligence quietly entered his life, not as a trend or a career move, but as a calling. He didn't approach it with urgency. He approached it with reverence. He knew that intelligence in any form was powerful, and powerful things must be held gently. Sam began spending long hours reading research papers, exploring the early theories behind machine learning, and speaking with researchers who were already thinking about the future of AI. These conversations lit something inside him, a spark of recognition that he was standing at the edge of a field that would eventually transform the world. Not abruptly, but quietly. Not with noise, but with understanding. He didn't try to force his way in. He simply listened, asked thoughtful questions, and absorbed the landscape the way someone studies a map before embarking on a long journey. He realized that artificial intelligence wasn't just another technological advancement. It was a mirror, one that revealed what humanity valued, feared, and hoped for. It was a tool that could magnify the best of us, or the worst. And that understanding changed the course of his life. In the years that followed, Sam became part of a small community of thinkers and researchers who believed AI wasn't just about capability, it was about responsibility. They spent hours discussing how to build systems that were safe, supportive, and aligned with human values. Their meetings weren't filled with urgency, they were filled with patience. They were not chasing the future, they were guiding it. This is where Sam's natural calm became his greatest strength. He wasn't intimidated by the unknown. He didn't shrink from the complexity of ethical questions. He embraced them. He understood that the future required leaders who could slow down, reflect, and listen to the world's needs with humility. He understood that progress wasn't measured in features, it was measured in wisdom. And so he stepped into the world of artificial intelligence, not as a disruptor, but as a steward. Over time, he helped guide the formation of an organization dedicated to exploring intelligence safely and responsibly. A place where researchers could think deeply, debate openly, and work toward breakthroughs without losing sight of the ethical foundations beneath them. Sam didn't lead with authority. He led with clarity. He created a culture where questions were valued more than answers, where safety mattered more than speed, and where humility was seen not as weakness, but as strength. This calm approach helped the team achieve progress in ways they never expected. Slowly, steadily, the systems began to grow, learning, adapting, and demonstrating early hints of reasoning. And with each step, Sam ensured that safety remained at the center. He reminded everyone that intelligence must be guided, not unleashed, that responsibility must come before recognition, that humanity must remain the anchor. As AI capabilities expanded, Sam found himself thinking deeply not just about the technology, but about the people who would one day use it. He imagined a world where anyone, no matter their background, could have access to knowledge, clarity, and support. A world where intelligence was not a privilege, but a shared resource. A world where people could unlock creativity, solve hard problems, and understand themselves more deeply through systems built with care. And he realized something important. AI wasn't just a tool. It was an opportunity to elevate human potential gently and responsibly. He carried that belief into every conversation, every meeting, every decision. When challenges arose, he approached them with the same steady calm that had guided him since childhood. When the world grew anxious about AI, he remained grounded, offering clarity instead of fear. When breakthroughs emerged more quickly than expected, he slowed the conversation, reminding everyone that speed must never outrun wisdom. Sam's story is one of quiet courage, the courage to think deeply in a world that often rushes forward, the courage to lead gently in fields defined by intensity, and the courage to prioritize humanity when ambition could have taken center stage. His life shows that true leadership isn't loud, it's steady, it's reflective, it's built not from force, but from understanding. And as the world moves into an era shaped increasingly by artificial intelligence, Sam's calm approach serves as a reminder that the greatest transformations often begin with a single, consistent belief that progress must serve people, not overshadow them. As the organization grew in size and ambition, Sam continued to guide it with the same steady presence he had carried since the very beginning. The world around him was changing quickly, companies racing forward, researchers uncovering new capabilities, and the public beginning to wonder what artificial intelligence meant for their jobs, their families, and their daily lives. But inside the quiet halls of the organization he helped shape, Sam maintained an atmosphere of calm thoughtfulness, ensuring that every breakthrough was met with reflection rather than excitement alone. He knew that intelligence, especially artificial intelligence, was unlike any technology the world had built before. It wasn't a device or a platform or a single invention. It was a multiplier capable of amplifying human capability in almost every direction. And because of that, it required a gentleness of approach that few industries had ever embraced. Not gentleness in the sense of slowness, but gentleness in intention, a deliberate, human-centered mindset that recognized the depth of what was unfolding. This mindset became even more important as the team began developing systems that could generalize across tasks, models that weren't just trained for narrow functions, but could reason across broad areas of knowledge. Researchers began observing the early signs of something new, an intelligence that didn't merely respond but interpreted, didn't simply retrieve information but connected ideas with surprising coherence. It wasn't dramatic or sudden. It emerged gradually like dawn light spreading across a quiet landscape. At first, the changes were subtle, clearer explanations, better reasoning, more nuanced responses. Then the improvements compounded, revealing capabilities that felt both natural and extraordinary. The team treated these developments not as moments of triumph, but as signals that they were stepping further into territory that required even greater responsibility. Sam remained deeply involved, not in writing code or building models, but in shaping the philosophy behind every decision. He encouraged the group to think broadly about impact, not just what the system could do, but how it would interact with people, how it would shape their thoughts, and how it would influence their understanding of the world. He reminded them that intelligence, in any form, could shift perspectives, and perspective, once shifted, changed everything. His leadership during this period felt almost meditative. He didn't command attention. He earned trust by being present, by listening with genuine interest, and by making decisions from a place of long-term clarity. People sought him out not because they needed direction, but because they valued his ability to slow down conversations that were moving too quickly, and to reveal insights that others had overlooked in their rush toward progress. One of the researchers later said, "Sam doesn't speed you up. He slows your mind just enough that the right idea becomes visible." That quality became essential as the pace of AI development accelerated. But even as the models became more capable, Sam held on to a principle he considered non-negotiable. Progress must be paired with alignment. Alignment not just in the technical sense, but in a moral and human sense. He believed that artificial intelligence should reflect the values that make humanity compassionate, creative, and wise, not simply efficient. He often spoke about the difference between intelligence and understanding. Intelligence could solve puzzles, detect patterns, or optimize outcomes, but understanding required context, empathy, and grounding in human experience. And he believed that if AI was to serve the world meaningfully, humanity had to be deeply involved in shaping that understanding. This belief guided the creation of safety teams, alignment protocols, and interdisciplinary collaborations that brought together psychologists, ethicists, philosophers, and sociologists alongside engineers and scientists. It wasn't common at the time, but Sam insisted that intelligence, true intelligence, was too important to be guided by one field alone. It required insight from every discipline that touched the human experience. As the organization advanced, Sam began engaging more frequently with global leaders. He traveled to different countries, sitting across from presidents, prime ministers, and ministers of technology who were trying to understand how to navigate a world where intelligence could be built and deployed at scale. Many of these conversations were quiet, private, and deeply thoughtful. Some leaders expressed fear, others expressed excitement, most expressed uncertainty. Sam met each emotion with steady clarity. He didn't promise miracles, nor did he warn of catastrophes. Instead, he offered perspective, reminding them that artificial intelligence would reflect the choices made by the people who built and guided it. If humanity approached AI with wisdom, the future could expand in countless enriching directions. If humanity approached it carelessly, the risks could grow just as quickly. He didn't speak in absolutes, he spoke in possibilities, and that made people listen. Back inside the organization, the team was beginning to sense that they were approaching a milestone, a moment when their systems would be ready not just for research, but for broader interaction with the world. They understood that this shift required care. They debated extensively about deployment, about transparency, about pacing. They asked difficult questions about responsibility and preparedness. Sam guided those discussions with patience, often reminding the group of something he believed deeply. We're not just building intelligence, we're building trust. And trust, once broken, could not easily be rebuilt. Throughout this period, Sam continued his habit of late-night reflection. After long days filled with meetings, reviews, and collaboration, he often found himself standing alone in a quiet office, watching the glow of monitors dim as the building settled into silence. These were the moments where insight surfaced most naturally, soft thoughts rising to the surface once the noise had faded. He thought about the researchers working tirelessly to shape systems with clarity and safety. He thought about the world watching, sometimes with hope, sometimes with fear. And he thought about the responsibility resting on his shoulders, not because he had sought power, but because he had stepped into a field where responsibility and leadership were inseparable. He knew the world was entering a new era, one where intelligence would no longer be limited by biology, and where the tools humanity created could think, reason, and assist at levels never before imagined. He understood that the transition required not just technical breakthroughs, but emotional maturity and ethical grounding. And he felt ready for it. Not because he had all the answers, but because he had learned how to live comfortably in uncertainty, how to let questions unfold naturally, how to stay calm in complexity, and how to guide others forward without rushing the journey. As artificial intelligence continued to evolve, the organization reached a point where its systems could no longer be described as simple tools. They had become partners, extensions of human thought that could help people learn faster, think more clearly, and navigate complexity with newfound ease. The team felt the significance of this transition deeply, and Sam, more than anyone, understood that the world had entered a moment where guidance mattered as much as innovation. In this stage, the conversations inside the organization became more introspective. Researchers weren't just asking how to build models, they were asking why. Why should a system behave one way instead of another? Why should it offer advice or decline to give guidance or gently steer a conversation toward clarity? Why should it err on the side of caution in one context and empowerment in another? These questions didn't have easy answers, but Sam welcomed them. He believed that asking the right questions, slowly, thoughtfully, was as important as building the right systems. He often reminded the team that intelligence, at its core, wasn't about computation. It was about understanding, and understanding required context, compassion, and the ability to interpret human needs with subtlety. He believed AI should reflect not just what people asked for, but what would genuinely serve them. That belief guided countless decisions, many of which shaped the culture of the entire field. As the models grew more capable, Sam also became increasingly aware that the organization's role was no longer confined to research. It was becoming a bridge between technology and society, a translator of sorts, helping the world comprehend a force that few truly understood. He knew that communication mattered, honesty mattered, transparency mattered, and he felt responsible for ensuring that the organization navigated this moment with grace. During this time, the world's curiosity about AI turned into global conversation. People began asking deeper questions. How will AI change work? How will it change education? How will it affect creativity, medicine, or relationships? Sam approached these conversations with the same calm clarity that defined his leadership. He didn't minimize concerns. He didn't overstate capabilities. He simply offered perspective, grounded in the belief that intelligence, when guided responsibly, could help humanity flourish. He often said that the goal wasn't to create machines that replaced human thought, but machines that enhanced it. Machines that helped people see more, understand more, and imagine more. This vision resonated with millions, not because it was grand, but because it was grounded in empathy. Sam knew that the world didn't need louder leaders, it needed steadier ones. Inside the organization, the team continued to refine their systems. They improved safety frameworks, strengthened ethical guidelines, and built tools that helped people interact with AI in ways that felt natural and supportive. But even with all of this progress, Sam encouraged everyone to remain humble. He reminded them that they were still at the beginning, that intelligence was a field so vast that even their most advanced systems were early shadows of what the future might hold. This humility became the defining tone of the organization. It kept people grounded when breakthroughs arrived, it kept them cautious when risks surfaced, and it kept them honest when the outside world projected expectations that felt larger than reality. At the same time, Sam noticed something unfolding within himself, a deeper sense of purpose, one that transcended individual accomplishments. He realized that his work was not about building AI systems. It was about helping humanity navigate a transition that would shape the next century. It was about ensuring that as intelligence expanded, compassion expanded alongside it. It was about helping the world grow, not just in capability, but in wisdom. He thought often about the students who would one day use AI to learn subjects they once struggled with. He imagined scientists who would discover cures years sooner because of systems designed to help them think differently. He pictured creators who would bring ideas to life with tools that amplified their imagination. And he envisioned ordinary people, parents, workers, dreamers, who would use AI the way they once used libraries, calculators, and maps, not as replacements for their abilities, but as companions in their growth. These visions strengthened his belief that the future required a new kind of leadership built on trust, clarity, and emotional steadiness. And he realized that calm leadership wasn't passive, it was powerful. It created space for deeper thinking, better decisions, and a future built intentionally rather than impulsively. As the organization prepared to release more advanced systems to the world, Sam knew that the transition needed to be gentle. He wanted people to feel supported, not overwhelmed. He wanted them to feel empowered, not intimidated, and he believed the only way to achieve that was through communication that was honest, patient, and centered on human values. During this period, Sam began spending more time in quiet reflection, sometimes alone in his office with a dim lamp illuminating handwritten notes, sometimes walking in the stillness of early mornings before the world awakened. These were the moments where he thought most deeply about the intersection of intelligence and humanity, how each shaped the other, how each depended on the other, and how neither could flourish without care. He reflected on how far the field had come and how far it still had to go. He thought about the researchers who worked tirelessly to build safe systems, the engineers who turned ideas into reality, and the external partners who sought guidance on responsible deployment. He thought about the young people who would grow up in a world where AI was woven into the fabric of daily life, where asking a machine for help would be as natural as opening a book or searching online. And he realized something profound. The work had stopped being about him long ago. It had become about everyone else. It had become about building a world where intelligence served humanity gently, where complexity was met with clarity, and where the future belonged not to machines, but to the people guiding them with care. This realization gave him an even stronger sense of calm, a reassurance that he was exactly where he needed to be, doing work that resonated far beyond personal ambition. He understood that leadership in this era wasn't about being the smartest voice in the room. It was about being the quietest one, willing to think the furthest ahead. And with every new system, every safety breakthrough, every conversation with global leaders, Sam felt the quiet momentum of history moving forward, a momentum that required guidance, patience, and unwavering commitment to the values that made humanity worth preserving in the first place. As the organization moved into its most transformative years, the systems it created began influencing the world in ways that reached far beyond technology. Artists used them to unlock new forms of creativity. Students used them to understand subjects that once felt overwhelming. Doctors, researchers, and scientists discovered new insights, guided gently by models designed to think alongside them rather than ahead of them. And ordinary people from every background, every corner of the world, found comfort, clarity, and support in conversations that helped them navigate everyday life. Sam watched these changes unfold with a sense of quiet gratitude. He didn't see them as triumphs. He saw them as reminders that AI, when built with intention, could become a companion in human growth, helping people learn faster, think deeper, and access knowledge that once felt out of reach. He felt humbled, knowing that something the organization created could help lift others, not through force or pressure, but through gentle guidance. Yet, even as the world embraced these new tools, Sam stayed grounded. He knew that progress wasn't measured by adoption alone. It was measured by the integrity with which systems were built, the care with which they were deployed, and the responsibility with which they were guided. And so he continued to ask the same questions he had asked for years, questions about safety, alignment, fairness, and the emotional impact of intelligent systems on the human mind. These questions became even more important as capabilities increased. The models were no longer just assisting with tasks, they were helping people think, create, understand, and reflect. They were becoming woven into the fabric of how humans navigated their days. And Sam knew that any technology capable of shaping thought must be held with extraordinary care. Inside the organization, researchers approached this phase with renewed clarity. They built systems that encouraged healthy behavior, discouraged harmful ones, and emphasized transparency. They developed tools that helped people understand how AI arrived at certain answers, preventing the illusion of certainty that could mislead. They created safeguards that ensured the models remained aligned with human values at every stage of their development. Sam played a central role in shaping these priorities. He didn't dictate, he guided. He didn't demand, he listened. He offered perspective, grounded in years of reflection, carrying a calm certainty that alignment wasn't just a technical challenge, it was a moral one. And morality required patience, openness, and humility. As the organization prepared to release some of its most advanced systems, Sam understood that AI was no longer simply a scientific frontier. It had become an emotional frontier as well. People projected hopes, fears, anxieties, and dreams onto it. They wondered whether it would help them, overshadow them, or change the world in ways they couldn't predict. Sam respected these emotions deeply. He believed that acknowledging people's concerns was as important as explaining the technology behind them. He often said that intelligence should not make people feel small. It should help them realize how much more they are capable of. This belief drove many of his decisions. He wanted AI to elevate, not diminish. He wanted people to feel supported, not replaced. And he wanted the future to feel collaborative, not competitive. For Sam, intelligence was not a race. It was a partnership, a way for humanity to expand its understanding of the world while holding on to the values that made it human. Throughout this final phase of development, Sam found himself reflecting more on the emotional arc of his journey. He remembered being a quiet kid in St. Louis, fascinated by computers and curious about how they worked. He remembered the early startup days, messy, uncertain, but filled with growth. He remembered the first meetings with researchers where AI was still fragile and experimental. And he remembered the moment he realized that this field wasn't just interesting, it was essential. It would shape the rest of his life, and in many ways, the future of humanity. These reflections didn't make him sentimental. They made him grateful for the people around him, grateful for the opportunity to contribute, and grateful for the chance to help shape a future where intelligence was used with intention rather than impulse. One quiet evening, after reviewing the final safety evaluations for a major system, Sam stayed in the building long after everyone else had gone home. The halls were dim, the air still, and the soft hum of machines echoed faintly through the floors. He walked slowly past the research rooms, past the whiteboards filled with diagrams, past the notes left behind by teams who cared deeply about their work. He paused at a window overlooking the city. The lights flickered gently below, spreading out like constellations across the nightscape. He thought about how far the world had come in such a short time, and how carefully it needed to move from here. He knew that intelligence, once released into the world, didn't belong to any one person or team. It belonged to everyone. He stood there quietly, letting the calm of the evening settle over him, and in that moment he felt something simple and undeniable, a deep sense of peace. The future was uncertain, but uncertainty didn't frighten him, it motivated him. He believed in humanity's potential to grow alongside the tools it created. He believed in the power of curiosity to guide progress. And he believed that calm leadership, even in moments of vast change, could carry the world forward gently. As he left the building and stepped into the cool night air, Sam walked with the steady confidence of someone who understood that his story was not defined by achievement, but by intention. A story built not from loud ambitions, but from quiet purpose. A story rooted in curiosity, shaped by reflection, and guided by the conviction that intelligence, human and artificial, must always be held with care. And so the journey continues, not as a race, not as a battle, but as a collaboration between humanity and the intelligence it creates. A collaboration built on trust, clarity, and a belief that progress should feel like an opening, not a closing. In this calm, ever-evolving landscape, Sam Altman stands as a reminder that leadership is not the loudest voice in the room, it is the steady one, the thoughtful one, the one that moves forward with compassion, patience, and purpose. And as you close your eyes tonight, let that message settle in your mind. Your path doesn't need to be loud to be meaningful. Your growth doesn't need to be rushed to be real. And the future, whatever form it takes, belongs to those who guide it with care. Thank you for listening.